On this episode of the O2 Garage, I found a Torana, but it's not mint. It's actually far from it. Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the O2 Garage, where sometimes we talk about cars and sometimes we talk about, well, parts of cars. And that's exactly what we have behind us right here. We've got ourselves what's left of a Torana. And I figured for this episode we'll have a little bit of fun, because sometimes you come across cars that are just beyond repair. You can't do anything with them at all, but you can give them one last hurrah through videos like this. And I figured what we do on this video is have a look at the VIN plate, have a look at the car, find out a little bit about what this was, and maybe get a bit of an idea what we're looking at. Well, the first thing to know about this car is it's never going to go back on the road. It really has well and truly passed its use by date. You can see the rust has taken hold to the point where the car's collapsed, but that doesn't mean we can't find out a little bit more about it. When we have a look at it to start off with, we can see that obviously it has a Holden motor in here, and on the side you can see there it's got Holden 202. So it's a red motor. Having a quick look around here, does it have, yep, it's got a disc brake front end on it as well. Has an LPG system here as well, which looks like it's a little bit later, but it's an absolute mess. Look at the bonnet all bent up and so forth. I think it's probably had some cuts done on the front of the car here, but it looks like it's had an impact at some stage here. And when I talked about rust, have a look at that. The floor is completely gone in this. Everything's gone. The sill panels, the structural rigidity, everything out of this car has gone, to the point where even the B pillar has separated, and you can see it's now both the doors are pulling back. The whole car is concertining. The roof is dropping. You can see the weak spot from the sunroof, Jason. Do you know what? It's hard sometimes. So you can see the roof's collapsing because of the sunroof is giving it a weak spot, and plus the rust. But also you'll notice that this car's had a massive hit at the back of it at some stage, which is probably what brought it to the wrecking yard in the first place. It's probably been involved in a nose and tail hit, and now here it sits, not looking too good. Let's have a look inside. Well, inside it looks like the exterior. It's an absolute mess in here. There's still a whole lot of parts as well, but the first thing I have noticed when I look in here is that it actually has this right here, which says to me that it's got a manual gearbox in it. And that looks like it's still in a pretty original configuration. So this might be a factory manual car. We'll find that out when we'll have a look at the engine tag in a minute. Looking at the dash there, you can see there's not a huge amount left. There are some things like some springs and bits and pieces, but it's a mess. But when you come to the back here, it's actually a back seat, and it's black, which is interesting, because if this is a yellow and black car, that would actually make it quite rare. And if I have a look at some of the trim that's just coming out through the door as well, that looks pretty good and black. Set of speedy rims on the side here, which means that this probably back in the day would have been a pretty cool looking thing. Now we come around to the back of the car, and the first thing I noticed is the obligatory 80s, 90s style big chrome dumpy tip at the end going through the back. But look at that, no flaw in the boot at all. The LPG tank's still in there, but the rest of the car has just crumbled really badly. There's a couple of good pieces of straight steel on the bumpers, and even like the little light over and so forth, but the boot's an absolute mess. If we come up to the top here, you'll also notice it does have the 3300 badge on it as well. So it actually has a few cool bits and pieces still on it. Let's have a look at the engine tags and the ID tag and see what it had. So the first tag we're going to come in here and have a look at, and hopefully the camera will pick it up nice and cleanly, is this tag right here. And so as you can see right here, it's got 9th of 77. So it's a 77 and it says it's an LX Torana sedan. So that would identify exactly what it was. It wasn't an LH and it certainly wasn't a UC. So what we're looking at is a 1977 LX sedan. So the body tag is in on this side here, and we can sneak it down in, and I'll read you some of the numbers. You may not be able to see it. It says LX8VB69. So what that means essentially is that this was an LX Torana. It was a 6-cylinder. It was an S-shaped Torana. So it wasn't an S, so it wasn't an SL or an SLR. It was an S-shaped Torana. So it was one of the more POV pack special ones. Let's have a bit of a look at the running gear. We come in here and we can see the trim and the paint as well. So trim and the paint says 1886 18V 568 15949. So I did a little bit of research before I came here and I can tell you what those numbers mean. The paint of the car is absinthe yellow. Absinthe. The stuff you drink, the stuff that makes you cut your ears off, absinthe yellow. And you can see it stayed absinthe yellow all its life. So it's a pretty eye-popping 70s color. This thing would have cut a really cool profile on the street. And then with the trim is actually black vinyl. So whilst this was a POV pack Torana, it was only an S pack, it was bright yellow with black interior. And I've saved the best to last. Have a look at the engine and the trans. When we come in and have a look at the engine and the trans, we have engine which is L20 and the trans is M20 and the diff is CV4. So I'll start at the back. CV4. My memory says me correct, that's an open wheel 3.55 diff, so neither here nor there. M20 though is manual gearbox. It's not the M21 gearbox, so it doesn't have the close ratio gearbox, but it does have the 4-speed. It also has that really cool motor up front, which was the factory fitted 202. So this, despite its condition, is actually potentially a numbers matching Torana. Now you kind of go, oh, okay, well that doesn't mean anything, Jason. No, it doesn't. But what it does mean is that it has lasted all the way to 2021 when it was born in 1977. To still be here in some sort of form and still have what potentially could be the original engine and the original gearbox. So what do you do? Do you plate swap it? Do you body swap it? What do you do? There's certain legalities of what you can and what you can't do, but having it like this, I think is pretty impressive. Okay, so what happens now for this particular Torana? Well, let me explain. Up here in this wrecking yard, they don't actually get rid of old cars. They actually hold on to them. They've got lots of space here at the Wakefield Wreckers. And as you can see, there's a lineup of old HRs and even a ute up the back there as well. They keep all their cars because the vehicles actually have all sorts of very usable parts. And you think, well, I can get them all from Rare Spares and places like that. Yeah, you can, but these are still original parts. There's a lot of stuff under this engine bay here, as you can see, that is still very usable. Look at the hinges on the bonnet. There's obviously glass in these windows, quarter glass as well. The seats are definitely usable. I know that the gearbox and the engine can be used. There's things like even like the front end here, the hubs, even that steering rack, you could pull that out and replace that. You work our way around, have a look, there's the heater box, you could use the heater box. Coming back across, there's obviously things like a door like that, you really can't use that door. But you certainly could look at something like taking a piece out of the door if you're repairing a section on a car and you want the same steel. The window glass is usable, that's all usable. Looking in onto the dash, we had a look at that before. The heater box is still in the dash. There's a couple of switch gear and bits and pieces. There's a bonnet pull I can see over there. They're getting hard to find as well. And I'm sure if you rummage through the car, you'd probably find more. The diff is certainly usable, and there's obviously bits and pieces at the back. And, you know, whilst it's a sad end to the Torana, you can't change the fact it's sitting here in the yard. But the fact that they are going to still save this, and they don't mind junking this sort of stuff, all of this, that can go to the crusher. But this particular car, that'll be carefully picked up, it'll be put back in the row, and hopefully somebody else can use it. And you know what? I think that's pretty cool. All right guys, well that's the end of the episode. I hope you've enjoyed the little expose on this LX Torana, and while I was filming towards the end, I spied these. Have a look at that. There's the seats. There's the bucket seats out of the Torana. Those alone on eBay and Gumtree to keep other projects alive are worth heaps. So it's really cool to see this one still giving back, even though it's certainly on its deathbed. And on that note, make sure you hit like and subscribe on our videos. We really do welcome all your interest. If you've got any comments, leave it and give us the feedback. We love seeing that as well. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll see you on another one soon. On the O2 garage, every now and again we come across new friends on our path. This, I don't know what his name is. You want to say hello? You gonna say hello? Nah. He's gonna sit there and just let me scratch you. He's the yard dog up here at the Port Wakefield Wreckers, and he's absolutely fantastic. He loves riding around in this Toyota RAV4 hanging out the back. Oh, sorry, I'll keep scratching you. He's absolutely fantastic. Do yourself a favour. If you're ever in a wrecking yard and you see the yard dog, make sure you say good day.